So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he suggested, why not do a top 10 controversial opinions? Because I talk with him a lot about Pokemon, even if I haven't played all the games yet, I'm working on it, trust me. I plan to finish at least Ultra Moon and Sword by the next time I start recording videos. But yeah, he pointed out that I have a lot of controversial opinions, which would probably make for an interesting video, or it might get me cancelled, one of those two. But yeah, today I'm going to talk about 10 of my controversial takes on the game. At least from what I know, they're controversial. I think most people don't agree on these points. So my number 10 is simple. Post-game doesn't matter. I personally just do not care for post-game in Pokemon. Part of it is due to me marathoning all the games, honestly. Once you're finished, you want to move on to the next title. I do, at least. I never really liked the whole EV training, catching Pokemon with optimal IV, looking for optimal natures and stuff. I just like exploring the world, clearing the gyms and then going to the next story, going on a new adventure. So I really just don't care about post-game. The reason I'm mentioning this is because the remakes of Ruby and Sapphire at the time got a lot of hate for not including the Battle Frontier from Emerald. And I do think it's shitty that I didn't remake Emerald and move on to two copies again. I agree it's a bit shitty, but it should not have led to the hate that it basically caused those remakes to get. Because from what I've seen, they have excellent remakes. Granted, I haven't played them yet, but hate on them just because they lack post-game content that other titles did is a bit lame in my opinion. Regardless, it's an opinion, it's my perspective, I can see where some people are coming from. It post-game usually does basically fill the needs and demands of people that don't not exactly play PvP competitively, yet at the same time want some more depth. But yeah, it just isn't for me, and that's why I don't care for it much. My number 9 is that Pokemon Black 1 was amazing for locking you to regional Pokemon only, until the Elite Four. I think this should be the normal going forward. To add to this, maybe they should add a New Game Plus, where you can catch both types of Pokemon, and then make the fights more challenging, but that would require effort, and sadly the Pokemon Company doesn't do that. But yeah, I really like the fact that you're entering a new region and you're actually, well, forced to use Pokemon from that region. It actually makes you feel like you're going on a new adventure. I kind of lack this in some titles. I try to actively encourage myself to catch Pokemon from a region when I'm in it. But actually having all Pokemon around being from that region was very, very cool. Even if it meant sometimes in the early game not having the greatest Pokemon available. Still, it added a nice kind of challenge, and it actually made you feel like you're exploring a world. I wouldn't mind seeing it return in the future. If they're gonna keep splitting two games into two versions, like you have in Violet and Scarlet, maybe one of the two versions should just have this as the default. And the other, well, can be different. My number 8 is apparently very controversial, which surprised me. I think the Generation 4 starters are terrible. Maybe even the weakest. Design-wise. And this is apparently controversial. A friend of me was very confused as well. Didn't get where I was coming from. But I don't know, I just feel like compared to other generations they're uninspired. Generation 5 also kind of has this issue. I don't like the starters that much. Generation 4 and 5 had the weakest starters in comparison, I feel. To the point where for Generation 4 I was basically considering not using a starter with Pokemon at all. Like catching the first wild Pokemon I see and boxing my starter. Not kidding, I was actually considering it for Platinum, because I just really didn't like any of the starters, they didn't resonate with me. Apparently that is a controversial opinion, that surprised me, but yeah. Their designs just don't appeal to me. If you like them, that's fine. Something like this is very subjective, but I just didn't like them. My number 7 is that doubles should be the standard format. Look at Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. It adds a lot of tactics to the gameplay. It makes a wider pool of Pokemon viable, because you get different moves that are strong. You can focus on creating a focus debuff or a buffer, for example. It just adds more to the strategy. Which might be why they don't do it, because it would be too challenging for kids maybe, but yeah. I think it would be a nice way to spice things up. My number 6 is that Pokemon Violet and Scarlet is how Pokemon should be, and it's a great game. You have this great open world, many options of what you want to do, with various rewards depending on what path you take. You have those big like Titan Pokemons that reward you with more ways to travel if you clear them. You had the villain team, which gave you rewards as well for focusing on them. And then you of course had the gyms, traditional gyms. It was really nice. It really felt like a proper adventure. You could go to a you could basically go into a high-level area by accident, which also just added a sense of danger in a way. It really felt like Pokemon Violet was the first Pokemon game where we actually explored the world, and I think that's very great. The game sadly had a lot of issues, but it also had some really strong points. My number 5 is that the XP share is a good mechanic. A lot of people have been complaining about XP share not being, well, either one being a mechanic for your entire party and two not being toggable. But if you look at other JRPGs like Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, honestly every JRPG ever, it's normal for your entire party to get EXP. It cuts down on needless grinding and makes it so they should, by the way, they don't do this, but they should be able to make the content in general more challenging. But for some reason the Pokemon fanbase doesn't like this, and I just don't get it. I mean, in the end, yeah, it should be an option to turn it off. Why not give the player more options, right? I think more options are always great. But I think a lot of the flack that XP share gets is aimed at the wrong thing. It's more that Pokemon lacks difficulty settings. My number 4 is apparently also a very controversial one. You shouldn't be required to talk all those random NPCs to get certain rewards. Mostly the TMs, tactical machines. But other rewards can also sometimes be hidden behind random NPCs. And look, especially if you play multiple games like me in a row, it gets quite old. It gets old quite fast to run around, talk to 20 NPCs that really have nothing interesting to say, honestly. Just for one or two to maybe have an interesting conversation or maybe give you a TM. I never liked it. I know it's a part of the exploration / RPG part for many. So I can see why some people would like it. But I think it would be nice if they added some kind of marker or indication that an NPC has either something interesting to say or some reward or mini quest attached. Usually if you play like World of Warcraft or a big RPG, NPCs that actually have a quest attached to them have a quest marker. Otherwise they just have random dialogue, which sometimes you still want to interact with, just to see what they have to say. But it would be nice if they marked them in a way so I don't have to talk to every single random NPC. Because sometimes you walk in a building with 20 NPCs, you talk to them all, and you basically, well, waste time is a huge word, but, you know, I don't know, it just, it feels like padding to increase the time you spend on the Pokemon game. My number 3 is that HMs are terrible design and held the early games back. You always needed a water Pokemon to have Surf. You always needed a flying type to fly. And the requirements for Rock Smash or Cut, for example, also felt random. So you really had to play by Pokemon's rules, instead of being able to use the Pokemon you like. I think that was very annoying. Especially since, for example, Fly was not a good move at all. So you were also using a slot for a move that was suboptimal on top of all of this. Yeah, I never really liked HMs. This is subjective. I know actually some people agree with me, some people don't. But yeah, I just never liked it. Especially in the later games that just had so many damn HMs, it became ridiculous at some point. But number 2 is that Gengar is a disappointment. I think Haunter is a way cooler, sick looking Pokemon. Haunter deserves an alternative evolution as a result, in my opinion. I don't know, Ghastly is nice. Gengar is an evolution in all ways. It looks spooky yet amazing. I really like its design. Then we have Gengar that looks honestly nothing like Haunter. Huge step down, just looks boring and generic. And in my opinion, it always felt like a huge step down. And granted, you have to put effort to get it to evolution, so I could easily just dodge and not get it. Haunter hard carried my Soul Silver playthrough anyway. You never really needed in the single player games at least to evolve Haunter anyway. Haunter was still fine. But it would be cool, especially since they already went out of their way to mega evolve Gengar. It would be nice if Haunter got an alternative evolution that looked more like Haunter. Especially with the older sprites, Haunter had this eerie feeling to it, which Gengar totally lacks. Gengar looks way too cuddly and innocent in comparison. I think it's a shame. Haunter is really cool. I would have preferred if that was the final evolution, or if they created an alternative line, but yeah. Right now it is what it is, but maybe with future generations they fix this. And of course, my number one, another controversial one. Generation 2 should not have included Kanto. And this is, I think, a very controversial one. Soul Silver is a fan favorite for many games. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, the original Generation 2 to a certain degree as well. But I think including Kanto is what held the game down and made me not like it. Doubling the gyms from 8 to 16, having another run at Elite 4 sounds nice on paper. But in practice, they just didn't have the team to balance it. The idea to connect multiple regions is cool, but in practice they were unable to do it in a proper way. If you run around the Soul Silver, you notice that some wild Pokemon are level 5, for example. And I just really feel like they didn't have the team to balance it at the time being, when they made Generation 2 originally. And then later when they revisited for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they fixed none of the issues. Which honestly confuses me as well. Why are you making a remake of an old game and then not fixing something like this? A huge glaring issue. You're charging full price for these games. You have no excuse to leave the second region in such a poor state. I really dislike how poorly balanced it was. It turned a game that's otherwise great because Soul Silver and Heart Gold probably peaked graphics-wise for Pokemon. It had a cool Pokemon following mechanic, but all these nice things. But then it added the drag of having to do 8 more gyms while not really offering enough to make the second continent interesting. I don't know, I wasn't a fan. It didn't click with me at all. I dislike Soul Silver as a result. Other people might disagree, and that's fine. This is all subjective. I just think the inclusion of Kanto was not a good decision at all. That's my top 10 controversial opinions. Hint, the name states it, controversial opinions. You likely won't agree. Let's agree to disagree on many of these. I'm always willing to debate some of these points in the comments. But, well, there are opinions I do stand behind. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I see you in the next one. Goodbye.